rainy day Sunday, that's for sure. We made the trek out to Wisconsin. You may have saw that on some of my recent posts. We did fish the Twin Cities Metro all week. Game fish season. It's game fish season everywhere. The muskie season opened today, or yesterday, I should say, in Wisconsin on Saturday. And we're looking at muskie season opening in Minnesota soon. Sorry about the noise, making a little bit of a noise here on the side of the boat. See if I can get that to stop, but it's probably not going to. It's wet outside. It's been raining all morning. It's just kind of the nature of the beast, and it's supposed to rain on and off throughout the entire day. So we've been chasing down a variety of different species of fish. I'm going to throw a towel over this tire so that you don't sit and hear it creaking the entire time. That should stop it. There. So what have we been doing to catch our fish? First and foremost, water temps are in the mid to upper 60s. That's kind of across the board on all the lakes I've been fishing. Twin Cities area, metro area. Here in western Wisconsin, we're looking at 64 to 68 degree water temp, depending on the day, depending on the light conditions, the sun. These are surface temps, but things are progressing nicely. A lot of questions lately about spawn, whether it's bass spawn, whether it's crappie spawn, whatever it might be. So majority of the crappies are starting to spawn out. I'm not seeing many on beds. We've seen a handful of fish still lingering on their beds. A lot of them have spawned out. Largemouth bass, I'm seeing that to be similar to a lot of situations as well for that species, where a lot of the largemouth bass are either on their beds or spawned out. It's not much of a pre-spawn pattern at this point. We are progressing nicely. Now, smallmouth bass, that's been a hot topic. They are just starting to bed up. So smallmouth bass typically bed a little later than the largemouth, and that's exactly what we're seeing. We're seeing the smallmouth starting to move and occupy these bed areas where the largemouth are on them or finishing up. That's at least what I've seen here in the last several days. We've been targeting a lot of walleyes. I've been getting a lot of comments on social media about it. Are you becoming a walleye guy, this and that? I don't know, probably not, but they're fun to fish for, they're fun to catch. We kept a nice batch yesterday here for dinner. They're challenging, at least for me. I know some of you, that's kind of your niche and your forte. Rain's starting to come in again. I know that's your niche and forte, to chase walleyes. Well, it's not mine. I've always been considered a pearl walleye fisherman on Mille Lacs when the bite is good, and that's about it. But I have been targeting them lately. They're a whole lot of fun. I'm going to show you how I'm catching those fish. I've found some very consistent patterns in the metro, out here in Wisconsin, so I think I'm cracking a little bit of a code. We'll see. Might get humbled here in the next few days as we continue to fish this pattern out. But I'll show you how I'm catching them and what I'm doing. Let's revert quickly back to the bass fishing, because I know many of you are asking about that. Moving baits have been king. We are catching fish on chatterbaits, on swim jigs, on swim baits. We are catching some fish on wacky rigs. We're already catching fish on jigs and Ned rigs and a number of different things. These fish, because they are in the spawn, post-spawn, are starting to already migrate out. We caught fish as deep as 16, 17 feet of water yesterday, a bass. So they are kind of all over the place. However, all of that said, if I'm going to target bass right now, I am still thinking shallow. I'm still thinking under 10 feet of water. That's where a majority of these fish seem to be sitting, and I'm going to probably catch them a variety of different ways like I just mentioned. I'm probably going to start by chucking a swim jig, like an all-terrain finesse jig, or a chatterbait. I'm going to cover water. I'm going to probably be a little slower in my retrieve. Instead of burning it, I'm going to pitch, give it a second or two. I'm just going to do a slow retrieve back to the boat. That's been an easy way to catch these fish, a very fun, productive way to catch these fish. Everything else seems to want to bite that. We've caught pike on those situations. We've caught walleyes. We've had some big muskies follow us in the boat. We have not tangled with the muskie yet here in Wisconsin, but we are in the middle of day 2 of the muskie opener. I know my kids are trying to catch one there, chucking some phantoms, some bigger Meps bucktails, some things like that, just trying to entice a muskie to bite. We'll see. Maybe when we report back next week, we will have caught a muskie tonight or else tomorrow on Monday, Memorial Day. Speaking of Memorial Day, don't forget what this weekend is actually about and why it exists. It's to all those that gave the ultimate sacrifice so that we can enjoy these blessings and these freedoms. So Memorial Day is to remember those fallen soldiers that gave the ultimate sacrifice so that we can have what we have today. So please, at some point this weekend, tomorrow on Memorial Day, take a second or 5 seconds or multiple seconds just to think about that, and maybe even say a little prayer for those that are suffering in that regard too. So continuing on with the fishing side of things. So bass fishing seems to be relatively easy. You just gotta get out there and chuck and wind, chuck and wind, chuck and wind. That's helping you catch a bunch of fish. The walleye fishing, we've caught them 2 specific ways. I have still yet to fish any live bait, and maybe I should, because we kind of got our butts whooped last night. We didn't catch many. We did really well yesterday afternoon. Sunny, main lake, weedy stuff, that kind of stuff. We caught them well. I'm still continuing to fish a 1-2 punch plastics approach, and this is how I'm catching a lot of my fish. I'm fishing anywhere from 8 to 15 feet of water, weed line kind of stuff, just kind of focusing on sparse weeds, not super clumped up, bassy looking weeds, but sparse weeds, hard bottom transition areas. I'm paying attention to my active target, my forward facing sonar. I'm not necessarily always seeing the fish on the sonar, but I'm seeing the structure I want to fish. I'm seeing some of the bait. And yes, at times I am certainly seeing little schools and pods of walleyes, don't get me wrong. But a lot of the fish I'm catching, to be completely honest, I am not seeing on forward facing sonar. I'm not actively targeting them on forward facing sonar. I am looking for the things that I think they are in or attracted to and targeting those zones. And maybe I just need to get better at using forward-facing sonar to really follow these fish. However, we're catching them. So what are we doing to catch these fish? 2 different things. I'm starting one with the Scope TG. This is a tungsten jig head from All Terrain. Yes, a bass fishing company. You've heard me mention it a dozen times. That silver 3/16 ounce seems to be my mainstay. Little stouter hook, a little more durable hook than some of the other jigs on the market. And this is just a little mare from Crush City. Nothing fancy, a little 3-inch guy, cute little morsel. And I'm pitching this, and I'm actually doing a hybrid retrieve hop, kind of a hybrid versus a jig motion and a swimming motion. And I'm getting these fish to bite. We've talked about this stealth rod. This is a medium action 7'2". I got a Marival reel on there. I got 10-pound braided 832 main line to a fluorocarbon. I'm actually running an 8-pound leader on this. So that's my walleye setup. Again, pitch to the cover, to the structure I want to fish. I'm constantly retrieving, but I'm kind of hopping and dancing with maybe some subtle pauses, working it back. I'm not just reeling it in the whole time. I have found that I catch more fish making more contact with the bottom on this than I do just a steady retrieve. And then what's my second approach? If I know there's fish there and I'm not getting them to go, I switch over to an 1/8 ounce drop TG from Clam Outdoors, also a tungsten jig, thinner wire hook, a little longer shank hook. I'm fishing the brand new salt infused ringworm from Mr. Twister. This is a smaller, thinner, more finesse presentation. I can pitch this onto a piece of structure where their fish are, and I can kind of fish it much like you would a Ned rig or a jig worm or a shaky worm. A little smaller application. Comes down, falls slower, kind of vibrates in the water. It's got that ringworm tail on the back. I have found out that this is kind of what I consider my cleanup crew. So if I don't get them to eat, a little more of aggressive presentation there with the Scope TG and the paddle tail bait, I'm coming through with more of a ringworm, jigworm presentation. And I've caught multiple walleyes doing this as well. And the setup I'm using for this is also a stealth. I went to a 7'3" medium light, little lighter blank. Marival reel. I'm using 8-pound test braided line to a 6-pound fluorocarbon leader. So again, we're talking more of a finesse fishing situation as my 1-2 approach for catching these walleyes. We are catching plenty of bass on these setups as well. Multiple pike. Trust me, pike have been rampant in some spots, but this has been my 1-2 artificial plastics approach to catching these walleyes, and we're doing pretty well, and it's a whole lot of fun. And even my kids, my younger kids that maybe don't have as much experience, can fish either one of these presentations with some success. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're going to continue to do this afternoon. Caught some fish this morning. We're dealing with some conditions. We got some rain. Shocker, we've gotten rain, I feel like, all week. We don't need any more of it at this point, but we're going to get some more throughout the day today. It's supposed to clear up tonight for those of you that are on the water, and I think tomorrow, Memorial Day, it looks pretty darn nice as of right now. We're not looking like we're going to get a bunch of rain, so should be a nice way to end off the holiday weekend. So there you have it. There's my 2 setups. My 1-2 punch for fishing walleyes artificially. Love this. It's a whole lot of fun. I'm going to continue to do it and chase down more walleyes this week and report back after we hit the final week of May. The final week of May is ahead of us. The next report, I think, will actually be on June 2nd. So the next report will actually be in the month of June, believe it or not. Time is flying by. Hopefully you're getting out there having some fun. Be safe on the water. Have some etiquette. Pay attention to what's going on. And at the end of the day, hook sets are free. Set some hooks, catch some fish, and we'll catch you next time.